Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Chief Secretary, Kelvin Charles, addresses the media.
Today, I take this opportunity to bring you up to date with a number of issues that are impacting on the education system in Tobago. But these issues are indeed positive issues. I begin by making reference to the introduction of an instructional coaches program. As you are aware, I had signaled some time ago that I planned to improve our education system, and more particularly to begin at the level of the primary school. In fact, there were too many students who were underperforming in respect of literacy and numeracy. And of course, this was underscored by the kind of results we would have gotten from the CE exam. Part of the solution going forward is what I call this instructional coaches program. So what we have decided to do is that we will engage the services of trained educators to work with both teachers and students of the primary school, so that to the extent that there are gaps in the knowledge base of the students or even of the teachers, these coaches would work with both teachers and students to treat with any deficiency. We have decided that we will employ or engage the services of 6 reading coaches and 6 mathematics coaches. And these coaches will be responsible for clusters of schools. So this is designed to ensure that the workload is manageable. And of course, as I indicated, they will be provided with the relevant methodologies and so on to assist in respect of improving the levels of numeracy and literacy in the primary school. Now, positions were advertised, and I understand as of Friday, the 25th of August, 35 applications were received. So clearly, we're looking for 12, and if you are in receipt of 35 applications, we are in fact signaling that there was an overwhelming response to the program. So interviews will soon be conducted within 2 weeks, and appointments are expected to be made on or before the 2nd of October, 2017. Another issue that we treated with recently at the level of the division had to do with what is called a rationalization exercise of the placement of teachers. The division would have embarked on this process because for many years, teachers were being placed in schools to which they were not assigned by the Teaching Service Commission. And of course, one of the unintended consequences of that would have been a situation where persons who may have been eligible for promotion could have been denied such promotion because of where they were placed. And therefore, we took the decision, to the extent that those persons were placed in the wrong schools, we would place them in their correct schools according to their appointments by the Teaching Service Commission. And we decided that we had to do that quickly in order to facilitate appropriate planning at the start of the term. Because if we didn't do it now, it would have been difficult to do during the term. It would have been more upsetting. Because if you were to imagine someone is teaching, that, as we say, a standard 5 class and has to be moved in the middle of the term, you could then imagine disruption. All right? I also take this opportunity to assure teachers who are part of this exercise that to the extent that any problem arises, we are prepared to treat with that in the context of their school boards and requests for transfers, and that kind of thing. Now, we had also taken the decision that in respect of those students who had to be placed at secondary schools, but who had underperformed at the C exam, in other words, the students that would have received less than 30% of the marks, that we would have them undergo psychosocial assessments. And the justification for that is simple. So that any problems they may have that can impact on their learning in schools, we can treat with those early by way of the appropriate intervention. Indeed, we have taken the position that these assessments will be made available to the principals of the schools to which these students have been assigned, so that teachers can be guided. And more importantly, our department, social department, that is the student support, have been mandated that they have to track these students throughout their school life. So we are not just doing the assessments and leaving it there. They would be available to provide ongoing support for these students. As a matter of fact, we are hoping to use this opportunity to engage in what we may call a longitudinal study concerning these students, so that we can really determine to what extent our particular strategies would have worked. Because we are committed to ensure that these students leave secondary school with some special skill or some trade, or to the extent that they are so capable, they can be mainstreamed with the rest of the students and thereby get whatever qualifications they are desirous of attaining. I need to make the point that the assessment to date demonstrates that there is a general willingness by families to engage and receive the support offered by the division. And there are two schools under consideration at this time based on my last conversation with you. That is the Signal Hill Secondary and the Roxborough Secondary School. We have not yet completed a detailed assessment of our students' performances in respect of the CSEC exam and the CAPE exam. However, our preliminary analysis shows the following. That in respect of the CSEC performance, English A continues to show improvements over the years. I'm advised that in 2013, the pass rate was 35.9%. Now today, meaning 2017, it is at 68.4%. And the information I have is that there has been an incremental but steady increase over the years. There seems to have been a slight decrease in mathematics performance this year, but again, I am advised that over the past years, there would have been some level of improvement. For example, in 2012, the pass rate was 27.4%. And 2017, it is 42.1%, which is slightly lower than it was last year. But again, it underscores the work that we have to do in respect of numeracy in our schools. And we're going to begin to treat with it at the level of the foundation, the primary school. Now, in respect of the CAPE performance, there was a modest improvement in the pass rate from 91.2% in 2016 to 92.8% in 2017. So we're talking about a percentage increase of 1.6%. And it is noteworthy that the performances of both male and female students reflected an improvement. So I'm happy to note that the males are beginning once again to assert themselves. Now, there are some subjects in which we would have recorded 100% pass rate, and these include, but are not limited to, applied mathematics, agricultural science, biology, entrepreneurship, which is encouraging, environmental science, information technology, physics and computer science. So those were some of the subjects in which the schools would have attained 100% success rate. In respect of our school repair program 2017, as you are aware, we would have taken the decision to operate in a slightly different manner this year, in that we decided that we would, in respect of the repairs, organize the repairs into packages. And in this regard, we were able to award 88 contracts, as opposed to last year when we did about 39. And based on the information that I have, 84 of these contractors have completed their projects, and that the others are expected to complete by Friday, the 1st of September. What this suggests is that, for all intents and purposes, the reopening of schools ought to be a very smooth one. Of course, part of our school expansion project for 2017 involved 4 schools: Signal Hill Primary, Wim Anglican, Patience Hill Primary, and Hope Anglican. Both Signal Hill Primary and Wim Anglican are 80% complete. Hope Anglican is about 70% complete, and Patience Hill is about 40% complete. We are hoping that all of these expansion projects can be completed by the end of September. And there are some additional initiatives that we are taking. Post-secondary and tertiary education. I am happy to advise you that we are currently in discussions with a consortium of universities from the United States, with a view to having them partner with us in respect of widening, in the first instance, our choices of subjects at the tertiary level, and in another instance, to deepen those choices. May I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that THTI was transferred from the Division of Tourism and placed under the Division of Education. And on the basis of that, because we're going to be using THTI as the foundation for an integrated university in Tobago. But as you may know, the development of a university is a costly exercise. And therefore, we are moving to do so by way of forging partnerships. As a matter of fact, there is an agreed memorandum of understanding. We are just dotting the I's and crossing the T's legally to begin this kind of partnership to which I am alluding. And that is in respect of the education sector per se. But I know that you are aware as well that the Division of Health would have begun some collaboration with universities abroad. In one instance for the promotion of cancer research. And those of us here present, the ladies are fortunate because the research would begin with those diseases that affect the ladies. So that Together, we are seeking to move forward by ensuring that Tobagonians are exposed to world-class and international standards of education and offerings. So we will continue to do that. As a matter of fact, earlier this week, I met with a master tailor out of England. The individual is originally a Trinidadian, but commands a business in England, an international business, and he's quite prepared to come to Tobago to assist us in the development of our fashion industry. Another initiative, ladies and gentlemen, has to do with the institution of a teacher development center. And we are hoping to activate this center in the coming term, so that the center is designed to inspire learning and teaching in very innovative ways. The intent is to ensure that our teachers are provided with the tools required to allow them to impact very forcefully and very significantly the teaching learning situation. Now, as you may be aware, the professional teacher is expected really to have what is called subject matter competence. And such competence is really defined in terms of, one, the content, and two, the methodology. That is the best ways of teaching the subject. And we are moving to ensure that our teachers are provided with all the assistance required so that they can bring the relevant methodologies to bear on the teaching learning situation. So we are hoping that we can have this up and running. And again, we are partnering with an individual who resides out of Trinidad and Tobago, but has some interest in working with Tobago in this regard. Yes? And that, ladies and gentlemen, represents the update on education at this time. We do look forward for a very smooth reopening of schools. And again, we look forward to ensuring that the initiatives to which I have referred are executed in a manner that allows for the best return on our investments. I can say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that it is our intention within 3 years to have as a situation or an achievement the child who comes first at sea in Tobago be among the top 200 students in Trinidad and Tobago. And as you may know, the top 200 is really where the air is rare. In addition to that, it is our hope as well that within that time frame, the education division in Tobago can be repositioned in such a way so that it ranks among the elite education divisions in Trinidad. And we are working towards that.
We've seen in recent times a number of persons speaking out on the effects of the sea bridge, and they're calling for your voice to be heard on the matter, and they've not been hearing anything from you. Why have you been so silent on the matter as it relates to the developments in the most recent weeks?
As you are aware, I would have, on 2 previous occasions, address the whole question of the issues relevant to the sea bridge, I would have also come here and I would have brought you the necessary updates. Yes? But I understand your concern and the concern of the Tobago public. And perhaps at this point, it gives me the opportunity to say to you and the rest of Tobago that I am affected, as any one of you, as I did indicate on a previous occasion, because I live in Tobago. And therefore, as Chief Secretary and a representative of the people of Tobago, what affects the people of Tobago affects me. So that I share the pain of many Tobagonians who at this time are undergoing some of the difficulties that are being encountered by the unpredictable level of travel between Trinidad and Tobago. However, as you're aware, the issue has also been addressed by the Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And the Tobago House of Assembly is really collaborating with both the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago as well as the Ministry of Transport to see how quickly the issue can be resolved. As you know, it is an issue that will take some time simply because of the nature of the procurement process. And as much as we would want to do so as quickly as possible, we have to abide by the process of procurement. Indeed, you are well aware that sometimes if one is not careful, one can run the risk of going contrary to established procedures. I remember, you know, because I would have grown up with some old folks, and you know what he said: hurry bird, don't make good nest. So I asked the people of Tobago to bear, because steps are being taken as we speak. As you know, only yesterday, tenders were invited for the procurement of a ferry vessel. And my information is that hopefully around the 20th of September, tenders will be closed. So then the actual process of sorting those tenders and awarding a contract would then take place.
But we've been waiting so long. Why, how long again for this wait?
And that is precisely the challenge, because as I indicated, the procurement process will take some time. And I know that steps are being taken to move as quickly as possible and to ensure that the mistake of the Ocean Flower Tour is not repeated.
On Monday, we had the minority team engaging in protest action by way of a swim protest. How did you view that protest?
That's an interesting question. May I take this opportunity to remind you that some time ago, when the Honorable Prime Minister had indicated that one of the options that would be considered in respect of providing choices to the traveling public to access Trinidad would be to operate a ferry service to Togo. And therefore, there were plans to build both a ferry port at Togo, as well as to construct a new highway, a new road from Togo that would eliminate some of the time for people to move from Togo to whatever part of Trinidad. And I don't know if you may recall, the idea was ridiculed. I think that what we have seen on Monday is in fact a demonstration of the viability of that option, and that one can really move from Tobago to Trinidad via Togo in a much shorter time than one would take to move from Tobago to Trinidad through Port of Spain. So that I think what would have emerged as one of the positives of that action is the underscoring of the value of the suggestion of engaging a system that would allow, as an additional option, Tobagonians to access Trinidad via Togo.
On Monday, we had the minority team engaging in protest action by way of a swim protest. How did you view that protest?
That's an interesting question. May I take this opportunity to remind you that some time ago, when the Honorable Prime Minister had indicated that one of the options that would be considered in respect of providing choices to the traveling public to access Trinidad would be to operate a ferry service to Togo. And therefore, there were plans to build both a ferry port at Togo, as well as to construct a new highway, a new road from Togo that would eliminate some of the time for people to move from Togo to whatever part of Trinidad. And I don't know if you may recall, the idea was ridiculed. I think that what we have seen on Monday is in fact a demonstration of the viability of that option, and that one can really move from Tobago to Trinidad via Togo in a much shorter time than one would take to move from Tobago to Trinidad through Port of Spain. So that I think what would have emerged as one of the positives of that action is the underscoring of the value of the suggestion of engaging a system that would allow, as an additional option, Tobagonians to access Trinidad via Togo.
You were in support of it?
As I indicated, it allowed for us to see the viability and the merit in the suggestion that was mooted some time ago.
The preparations for the students that scored below 30% in yesterday is underway. Is there a separate curriculum to be created for the students, and if so, is it completed already?
What has been, the outline is ready. What has to be done now is some tinkering in respect of the particular students. Because one of the things that I would not want to happen at all is that as much as there are some assumptions which would underlie the structuring of that curriculum, a situation where the work is pitched at the level where the students are not. So along with the psychosocial assessments would be the assessments of those students who are to be placed or who have been placed at the various schools. And I expect that the teachers in those schools, along with the curriculum officers in the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy, would then create the necessary, what you call programs of work that would allow for a movement of where the students are to where you would like to take them, given the realities of their circumstances.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending September 2nd, 2017.